So today, we have a new take on Ketramose. With Edge of Eternities, we got access to a whole new way to exile cards, and that is Warp. Warp is this fantastic new mechanic. It's on cards like Timeline Color here, where it says, Warp, pay black, and pay 2 life. Basically, what that allows you to do is you can play a card with Warp from your hand for its Warp cost. It will come in, do what it needs to do this turn, and then at the end of turn, it will zoop, warp back out to space, and you will then later be able to play it for its full cost. And Timeline Color is a pretty cool card with Warp because you can just pay 1 black, 2 life, and then boom, you got a 2/2 haster as early as turn 1. And then you can play it again later for its full cost if you want to. But then you also have cards like Haliya, Guided by Light, 3 mana, 3/3. She has a warp cost of only 1 mana, which is pretty cool. And it says, whenever Haliya or another creature or artifact you control enters, you gain 1 life. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card if you've gained 3 or more life this turn. So she's not only a life gain enabler, but also a draw enabler. So if you know you're going to have a turn where you're going to put a bunch of creatures or artifacts into play, then you might want to warp Haliya in ahead of schedule, so that she can help you capitalize on that. Now, as far as the rest of the deck is technically a Ketramose deck. It relies heavily on Warp and Exile effects and things like that, but unlike most other Ketramose decks, this deck can win without ever seeing Ketramose hit play. He's not necessary to the game plan, but he does help us win the game once he does hit the table. So let's take a look at the rest of the cards. So we're running 4 Lightstall Inquisitor. It's a new card, 2/1 with Vigilance. It's an Angel Wizard for 1 white mana. And it says, when this creature enters, each opponent exiles a card from their hand and may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. That each spell cast this way costs 1 colorless more to cast. Each land played this way enters tapped. So the whole effect there, it doesn't do too much, but it does trip people up and put them a little off balance, which is really important in the early game. If you can stop someone from playing something important in the early game and set them off even by a single turn, sometimes that can be the difference between winning a game and losing a game. So Lightstall Inquisitor gets the inclusion here. Next up, we have 3 copies of another new card called Seam Rip. For 1 white mana enchantment, when this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value 2 or less until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. So for only a single white mana, it does hit quite a lot, and it's a pretty valuable card. So there really aren't a whole lot of other single mana removal spells in Standard that are kind of up to this quality. So I think Seam Rip is a card you're going to be seeing a lot of in the near future. Next up, we got 1 copy of Ghost Vacuum, really good card to disrupt graveyard-based strategies. And we also have 4 copies of Shelter by Ghosts, really good removal, but importantly, it's exile-based removal. So it's something that works with Ketramose. Keep that in mind. Then we have the 4 Timeline Color that we talked about earlier. It's a really good early game beater. It triggers Warp, triggers Exile effects, all that good stuff. So really good card to have for this strategy. Then we have another new card called Sir Vondam Sunstar Exemplar. For 1 white and 1 black, you get a 2/2 with Vigilance and Menace. And it reads, whenever another creature you control dies or is put into exile, put a +1/+1 counter on Sir Vondam and you gain 1 life. When Sir Vondam dies or is put into exile, while its power is 4 or greater, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Okay, so this gets a lot for only 2 mana. First off, he's a 2/2 with Vigilance and Menace. That's already awesome. Whenever another creature you control dies or is put into exile, bear in mind that is what Warp does. When the Warp effect ends at end of turn, they go into exile to be played later. And that will trigger Sir Vondam. Very cool. So gets another +1/+1 counter, gets you life gain, and if someone deals with Sir Vondam after he's already at 4 power, then he gets to blow something up. Really cool. It's a really good card. Next up we have Haliya. We talked about this already. Then we have 3 Perilous Snare. Now Perilous Snare, it plays 2 different roles in this deck. 1 is obviously the removal, and 2 is once you've gotten to max speed, you can tap the Perilous Snare to put +1/+1 counters on creatures. Now that can go onto creatures like your Timeline Color or your Lightstall Inquisitor, good targets, But if you put it on Sir Vondam, that will help him get to 4 power all the quicker. So if you are struggling a little bit to get Timeline Colors into exile, or for whatever reason Sir Vondam isn't quite at 4 power yet and he gets targeted by removal, you can use Perilous Snare, well, at sorcery speed, of course. But you get what I'm saying, is Perilous Snare will help him get to 4. So that is why we're choosing this over something like a Banishing Light or something similar. Then we have 3 copies of Enduring Innocence. Now, Enduring Innocence, obviously it's here to help us draw more cards, keep fuel going to keep us able to play in the late game, right? But another thing about this is if this dies, it then exiles and comes back into play as the enchantment version of itself, which will trigger Sir Vondam. Very cool. Then next we have, of course, Ketramose. Everyone knows Ketramose. He's an awesome card. And this deck will get you to 7 very easily. If you've noticed, all the cards I've talked about so far today, all of them deal in exile in one way or another. The Lightstall Inquisitor exiles cards from the opponent's hand. Seam Rip, exile cards from the battlefield. Ghost Vacuum, exile from the graveyard. Sheltered by Ghost, Timeline Color goes into exile after he gets done warping. Like, everything here is all exile-centric. So Ketramose will become active, most likely, before you even play him. He's a really cool card. Then we have the All-Fates Stalker. This is an interesting one. For 4 mana, you get a 2/3. When this creature enters, exile up to 1 target non-assassin creature until this creature leaves the battlefield, and has a warp cost of 2. But you may be asking yourself, if I warp this in and I gobble something up, it'll just come back when the warp ends, right? Well, yeah, that's true. But you can play this defensively. You can say, what does this do? It will get rid of a non-assassin creature. Okay, so what is a non-assassin creature? Lightstall Inquisitor. So you can put this into play. It will disrupt the opponent's hand, use All-Fates Stalker's warp ability to then flicker the Lightstall Inquisitor, giving you access to that again, which gives you more hand information and more opportunities to set your opponent off kilter. Another thing you can do with that is also get more triggers on Sir Vondam. But let's say, for example, you warp in Timeline Color and you're getting ready to attack with him. And right before you need to send him back into the warp zone, you can bring in the All-Fates Stalker, warp that in. You can then have the Timeline Color get flickered out, and then All-Fates Stalker will go back to your exile zone, but the Timeline Color will come back into play when the Stalker leaves as just its base form. So you won't have to put it back into exile. You don't have to spend mana to cast it again later. So it's a very interesting little effect. Also, you can consider things like with Enduring Innocence. You can flicker out something with a small mana cost and get an additional trigger off of Enduring Innocence, or get additional triggers off of Haliya by having things come back into play. There's a lot of different things you can do defensively as well as offensively with the All-Fates Stalker. So that's why there's 2 of those in this deck. Next up, we have the Elegy Acolyte, another new card. We've got a lot of new cards in this deck. It's pretty cool. So it's a 4/4 lifelink for 4 mana. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Okay, so you get to draw cards, but you do lose life, but that's okay because the Elegy Acolyte has lifelink that will offset the damage. Void. At the beginning of your end step, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell was warped this turn, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. So, 1, it works with your warp mechanics. It gives you card draw when you hit the opponent with other creatures. And it even gives you additional creatures to come into play to trigger Haliya Guided by Light. It's like the synergies in this deck are just all over the place. There's all kinds of interesting little go-between reactions that you can trigger with this deck. And lastly, we're running 2 copies of The End. I want to run The End as a catch-all removal spell, because if your opponent has 4 of a copy of a card and you resolve The End on something and remove 4 of those cards, that's 4 cards exiled for Ketramose. Once you are at that threshold of only 7, he can start attacking and blocking as a menace lifelink indestructible, just beat stick. So it's just a really, really good synergy. So I like having a card that can give me that much value just by removing that creature. And land mana base is pretty easy. It's 4 plains, 5 swamps, 4 Bleachbone Verge, 4 Concealed Courtyard, 4 Godless Shrine, and 2 Restless Fortress. So that's the deck. Let's hop on in and play some games. Okay, so we get to go first. We have Godless Shrine and Concealed Courtyard, so that's multiple lands, both of our colors, very good. We also have 2 Lightstall Inquisitor, a Seam Rip, a Shelter by Ghosts, and a Vondam. So I think this is a very keepable hand. So I'm thinking we'll play the Concealed Courtyard first and get the Lightstall out there. Now that is a very cool card sleeve. Oh, looks like your opponent took a mulligan. That explains why they're taking so long. Okay, so let's take our first turn. Concealed Courtyard into Lightstall Inquisitor. Let's get some hand information. They removed a swamp. Maybe they'll just play that swamp this turn. Okay, play the swamp, comes in tapped. So second turn, I'm actually going to play the swamp and play Vondam. Hopefully get some triggers on Vondam as quickly as possible. But that's going to be determined on which creatures they want to eliminate on my board. Okay, so he's probably going to go for the Seam Rip. He's either going to take the Seam Rip or the Shelter by Ghosts. I would probably take the Seam Rip to force me to use 2 mana on the Shelter by Ghosts, which is what I'm going to do. Then we'll attack for 5. And now if they want to remove Vondam, they would have to pay 2 extra. But they'd rather just concede the game anyways. GG. Okay, so we get to go first. We have a Concealed Courtyard, a Godless Shrine, 2 Seam Rips, a Vondam, a Haliya, and an All-Fates Stalker. That looks pretty good to me. Only way I would want that turn to be, or that hand to be better, is if one of those Seam Rips was an Angel. That would be awesome. Actually, since we're not going to use our mana turn 1, let's just play this tapped. Okay, opponent plays a swamp. Then what? A Timeline Color. Okay, cool. We like Timeline Color, it's a pretty cool card. Alright, let's go Concealed Courtyard. And then I'm going to go with the Vondam. Okay, we got a mountain, so this is a Rakdos deck. Umbral Caller's out. Okay, I know what this is all about. Okay, let's go Concealed Courtyard. Then we'll go... Okay, so that's only a 2. So I'm going to use one of my Seam Rips to eliminate that. And then... I think I'm just going to attack. Yeah, end turn. Really nothing else to do. Ooh, Screaming Nemesis, huh? Okay. That's a great thing to use Shelter by Ghosts on. No blocks. Oh, or Perilous Snare. I think I'll do the Perilous Snare instead, just to start your engines going. He is leaving this Vondam alone. Almost intentionally, I think. Alright, another Nemesis. Come on in, champ. Yeah, I ain't blocking that. Anything else? A Bolt Wave. Okay, he's just trying to burn me out. Okay, that's cool. Well, in that case, let's just gobble that up. So now I'm going to warp this in, because I gained 3 life this turn from that. So I want to capitalize on that and draw a card. There we go, that's a good card. And now that's going to go away, causing Vondam to become a 4/3. I like that you can get that trigger without having to rely on playing a bunch of cards along with Haliya to get the life gain up. You can just use the life gain gained from combat. Okay, you want to attack for 2? Yeah, I'm gonna block it. Yeah, I had a feeling you were bluffing. Unless you have like fire magic or pyroclasm or something. I mean that would get rid of it. Yeah, okay, I didn't think so. Alright, so in that case, well, I'll just play Haliya Guided by Light. Hardcast. Alright, she's here. Gain a life. Attack with Sir Vondam. Alright, take the damage. You go to 6, I go to 23. We are also now at max speed, so let's go ahead and hit this and give Haliya a +1 counter. Okay, and then we'll pass the turn, and then we draw a card because we gained a bunch of life. Pretty cool effect. This is what I'm talking about with like all the synergies in this deck. It just kind of works well. I mean, it may not be the fastest deck, but it works. Alright, Timeline Color's back. Okay, it's only at the end of my end step. He probably just warped that in to get the void effect on that spell. He might not even attack. Oh, why are you just pointing damage at my face? Yeah, there's nothing you can do at that point. This deck was gaining a little bit too much life for you. He did get me down to what I think it was like 6 or 9 at one point, but it just wasn't enough. Okay, opponent goes first. We have Bleachbone Verge and Concealed Courtyard, Sir Vondam, Enduring Innocence, Timeline Color, The End, and Ghost Vacuum. All pretty good cards. I think we'll keep it. Alright, they drop a forest into a Patchwork Bestie. Alright, I'm going to go Concealed Courtyard, and then I'm going to Timeline Color this into play. We're not going to play the Ghost Vacuum early until they start filling their graveyard. I don't want them to know that we have that. Okay, so I just put a creature in. Alright, Wicker Folk. Attack for 3. Alright, next turn. Let's go ahead and play the Bleachbone Verge. And then I'm going to play Sir Vondam here. And then next turn, we should be able to start utilizing the warp effects. Okay, Commercial District comes in. Yeah, I will not block. That's fine. Okay, here we go. Alright, let's go Swamp. And then do we do the All-Fates Stalker or the Wildfire Wicker Folk? We could also do the Enduring Innocence. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put the wait a minute. There we go. Okay, it's gonna come in, and we're going to zoop that on out. Then we're gonna play the Ghost Vacuum. And then we're going to exile a card from your graveyard. It's gonna be that right there, because that counts as 2. Alright, then we're going to attack for 2. All-Fates Stalker is going to go away, giving a +1 counter to Sir Vondam. Alright, another tapped land. Coming in for 3, no blocks. Alright, well, let's go ahead and play this land here. Then I'm going to play a Shelter by Ghosts. Target there. Let's get rid of your attacking creature. And we're going to attack for 4, gain some health back. Exile that from your graveyard. Okay, so they might go active this turn. Let's find out. Okay, coming out with the 3/4, huh? I will take the damage, because I'll just gain that life back next turn. Let's see here. Alright, let's go ahead and bring the All-Fates Stalker in. Then come in and eat that Patchwork Bestie. Activate this to illuminate that. And then we can just attack freely for 4. And go back up to 15 health. And that's game. Yeah. Pretty decent. I'm liking how this deck is working so far. A lot of good synergies. Okay, so our opponent goes first. We have Godless Shrine and Plains, that's both of our colors. We have Same Rip, Sheltered by Ghosts, Haliya, Perilous Snare, and All-Fates Stalker. It's not the best open, but it looks promising, so I'm gonna keep it. Alright, they play Plains into Case of the Uneaten Feast. So this is a life gain deck. We're not gonna play anything turn 1, so we're just let that come into play tapped. Ooh, nothing on turn 2. That's not good for you. So, in that case, I'll just take this. And I guess I'm just going to play this to get rid of the case. Ain't nothing else going on right now. Resplendent Angel, huh? Okay. Alright, well, let's go ahead and play this. So that we can play this. Just gobble them all up. Oh, Exemplar, huh? Okay, that's cool. Alright, let's go Godless Shrine. We're gonna pay 2 life to make it come into play untapped. And then I'm going to play the All-Fates Stalker. Full cost. Gobble that up. Oh, he's telling me to get lost. To get his enchantment back. Interesting. Oh, and now that's getting lost too. Okay. I'm seeing what you're laying down here, friend. Good job. Okay. So let's go ahead and play the Lightstall Inquisitor. Actually, hang on. Can I do all 3? 1, 2, 3, 4? If I play this, that, and that. Okay, it'll only trigger for 2, so it's not really that important. So let's go Lightstall Inquisitor. What's that last card in their hand? It was a Dazzling Angel. Oh, perfect. So let's do this and gobble up your Exemplar of Light. And after that, I guess we'll do this. Might as well. They gave me all these map tokens. I don't need that. Alright, play land. Do Dazzling Angel. Okay. So, first things first is I'm going to activate this to get a +1 counter on Lightstall. Okay, let's do it again. Still not happening. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. So, in that case, I'm just gonna have to do this and clear the way. And then we can warp this in, so we can draw a card at the end of turn. And it's a Ketramose. Nice. Ooh. I did not draw anything good. That sucks. Let's hard cast this Haliya. Alright, opponent goes to 12, I go to 30, and then we're going to draw a card at the end of turn, but you know what? Let's play Ketramose. Very cool. Youthful Valkyrie. I don't think that's going to stop me, friend. Yeah, especially not with this. This is starting to feel like bullying. Alright, and I guess we play the Lightstall Inquisitor. Nothing else going on. And then we draw our card at the end of turn. The card draw in this deck is proving to be pretty nice. Drawing cards with Ketramose, drawing cards with Haliya, that's pretty good. And you're drawing cards not by going out of your way either, just by playing your cards out. It's pretty nice. Okay, opponent goes first. We have a Godless Shrine and a Restless Fortress. Lightstall Inquisitor, Seam Rip, Sheltered, Enduring, and the end. I think we'll keep it. We'll play the Godless Shrine first. Let's go ahead and keep that. Opponent plays a starting town. Oh, actually, we got a plains. So let's go ahead and play Lightstall Inquisitor. Let's see what's in your hand. It is jacked. Okay. They cast a braid. Alright. That wipes that off the table. In that case, let's go ahead and hit... I'm gonna do the Restless Fortress now, just so I can get the Enduring Innocence on the table next turn. And then start drawing cards off of the other guys coming in. Slasher, not good. Alright, well, let's go Godless Shrine. I will pay 2 life to have it come into play untapped. Mana value 2 or less now. Not the right card. Alright, play an Inti. Oh my god, they gave it trample. Alright. I still gotta block it. Inti giving the Unstoppable Slasher trample is diabolic. And that's putting me at 9. That's nasty, dude. Good job. Alright, let's do this. Let's see here. Okay, let's go play the Timeline color for its full cost. Draw a card. Okay, that's a land. Let's get the land in play. And we'll do a Seam Rip. Right there. Ooh, that's bad. They were gonna do it anyways, though. No real stopping them there. On the Screaming Nose. Yeah, I think we just lose this one, you know? Yeah, we're at 1 health. There's not much else we can do. So let's see here. Well, I guess we can do this. We can permanently eliminate that. Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have done it on the other one. It's all good. We'll play Sir Vondam. And then we lose. Because we played the wrong card. That's fine. Humans make mistakes. Okay, so our opponent goes first. We have 3 lands, both of our colors. Sir Vondam, Perilous Snare, Timeline color, and the end. Let's go. Alright, opponent opens with a Stadium Headliner. So this is very likely Mardu or Boros Mobilize. So let's go ahead. We'll play the Restless Fortress first. Sky Knight Squire, huh? Okay. That works really well, actually. Good choice. Alright, let's go here with the Concealed Courtyard. And then we'll go with the Sir Vondam. I'll give us something to block the Headliner with. We can use Seam Rip on the Sky Knight Squire at any time. Oh, okay. I think that actually just kind of wins, doesn't it? Oh, no, he's not attacking with the Stadium Headliner. He should have. At least, that's what I would do. Alright, well, for now, we kind of have to just hit the Perilous Snare. Zergo's gotta go. It's Vigilance, I'll attack. Okay, he's coming at me. You wanted to get that extra counter. That's fine. Do you have some damage pump? Frontline rush? Okay, yeah, that works. Alright, so let's go here. We're going to go Seam Rip on that. Oh, I did play this a little out of order, but that's okay. It's only a difference of 1 life. Let's just play Haliya. I really like Haliya. I think she's a good card. Alright. Go and take the Haliya. Absorb Enduring Innocence. Then we'll play the Timeline color, full cost. Gain a life. Attack. Get the damage. Haliya draws us a card at end of turn. Very nice. Love how that works. Another Enduring Innocence. Okay. Draw a card off the card coming in. Alright, well. One good turn deserves another. Eat that. Gain a life. Take that. Play the Ghost Vacuum. Gain a life from that as well. And then we attack. Okay, we are now at max speed, so we can start activating these. And let's activate this just for good measure. Get out of there. And draw a card. I love that. Just casually drawing a card for doing nothing extra. Alright, let's go with the Bleachbone Verge. And let's activate the Fortress. Now let's go +1 there, +1 counter there, and start attacking. They're gonna have to block with all three. Yeah, it's over. Good games. I like this deck. This is fun. Okay, and we are back with the post-game wrap-up, and I gotta say, this deck is really fun. Not just fun because it's like a semi-aggressive, semi-mid-range kind of build. It's fun because like synergy is the name of the game with this deck. There are so many things that just happen just through the course of you playing the game normally. You don't have to go out of your way to get all these benefits. Like, for example, using the Shelter by Ghosts, the lifelink that it provides for your attackers, in conjunction with Haliya Guided by Light, is a crazy good engine, especially because it kind of protects your investment too with the ward too. It's like Shelter by Ghosts, man, that card's just obscenely good. But we know that. That card's been amazing for months. So Lightstall Inquisitor, pretty good. Probably the best thing you can be doing at 1 mana in this deck, honestly. Seam Rep good, Ghost Vacuum pretty decent. I can see throwing like an additional 2 of these in the sideboard if you're going to play this in best of 3. But I think having them as a one of in a main board is the right thing to be doing. See, Timeline color is pretty good. Sir Vondam, kind of mid, honestly. He really isn't that great unless you're actively fueling him with like warp and exile effects. So he might be better suited to a different deck, a deck that maybe goes a little bit more all in on the warp mechanic. I mean, granted, we have a lot of warp in this deck, but there are times when I play Sir Vondam and he just kind of sits there, not really doing too much. Granted, he can still attack every turn because he has Vigilance and Menace, but he's not very exciting to draw him off the top. So he's not going to make you go, ooh, Sir Vondam. Yeah, so we might think about replacing that. Aside from that, we have Haliya. Haliya, complete night and day there. Haliya is an absolute unit in this deck. I mean, not just as a 3/3 beater, but having the ability to warp in to capitalize on life gain, to carry a Sheltered by Ghosts and just beat faces in and draw you cards off of it. It's like it's just such a good card. Like I really, really like Haliya Guided by Light. So from that, Perilous Snare. Perilous Snare actually ends up being a better card than I give it credit for. Having that ability to give additional +1/+1 counters to your other cards once you get to max speed is not to be understated. That it's good. Yeah, so definitely run the Perilous Snare in this deck. Enduring Innocence is fantastic as well, because most of the cards that you're playing and the creatures that you're creating through like Elegy Acolyte, they're all 2/2s. So you're going to be drawing a lot of cards with this deck. The only exception there is when you play a Ketramose or an Elegy Acolyte. They won't draw you cards, but everything else in the deck does. So I'm glad we devoted a couple of spaces to Enduring Innocence. Ketramose. Despite this being a Ketramose-centric deck, this card has not won me a single game. And that's simply because I tend to be ending the games before Ketramose gets online. So, that being said, this is probably a better card for those games that go a little long. But in Best of 1, where most games end around turn 5, Ketramose doesn't really shine. I have a good feeling he would definitely shine in a good drag-out, like, control matchup style of game. So I think Ketramose would be better suited there. So, he's good, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately, we did not find any opportunities for him to shine. The All-Fates Stalker, though, another card that definitely does shine. This card, I feel like I underappreciated this card when I first saw it, simply because the warp effect. But in the right turns, in the right turn sequence, you can just warp this guy down, get rid of a pesky blocker, and allow your other guys to get through. And then later on, when it's more relevant, cast the All-Fates Stalker for its full cost to permanently remove that card. So it's pretty decent. On top of all of the defensive things that you could do with All-Fates Stalker, it's actually a pretty damn good card. So I'm pretty impressed with this. Elegy Acolyte, we unfortunately did not get a chance to play. It never surfaced for us. Maybe if we want to see that card more often, we might want to increase it to a 3-drop. But as of right now, just like in the case of Ketramose, we really don't need him. We've been winning games without either of these two top-end creatures. Most games just are decided by Sir Vondam, Timeline Color, and Haliya. That's where the real meat in this deck is in these 3 cards. So yeah, I'd say to answer your question of what the MVPs in this deck are, I would say it's definitely Haliya, Timeline Color, and Sheltered by Ghosts. Those are probably our top 3 cards that we want to see every game. Sir Vondam, once again, was pretty mid, but he does serve his purpose. Ketramose we didn't see enough. Elegy Acolyte we did not see enough. All-Fates Stalker was fantastic. But yeah, there it is. That's the deck. And me personally, I think I would definitely give this deck another few runs before retiring it. This is a pretty fun build. I like the way that the deck just synergizes with itself so well. You really don't need to do a whole lot of extra jumping through hoops in order to get to where you need to be. So I think this deck is a pretty good choice for our current meta. So it's got enough removal to deal with pesky anything. It exiles things rather than killing them. And it beats face. It's pretty decent. It really feels like a good deck. So I'm going to keep playing this one. But if you would like to try and play this one yourself, I will leave a link or a deck list in the description box down below. So you can take it out, iterate on it further, maybe make your own changes to it. So until then, until next time, take care of yourselves.